Good morning, everybody. Today's video, we're not even no. So what's up, guys? Good morning. I'm roll my window down. Yeah. All right. So let's talk alternators today. I get a few questions on alternators. Pretty common. Different things. So we're just gonna kind of go over some basics of it, and then we're gonna go over choosing the right size alternator. First off, people is always like, what alternator company should I go with? There's lots out there. Go with something that you know the name of, though. Choose one that you've heard the name before. I see a lot of new little alternator companies popping up all over the Facebook groups, and if I haven't heard of them and they're not giving me an alternator to test, I wouldn't run it. Or if they wasn't giving a hell of a deal on it, I wouldn't run it. In this day and age, your two best price points for alternators are going to be, or your three, because you got CES, Brand X, and Autotech Engineering. They normally give you the best prices for an alternator. And if you got some new little company pop up and they're trying to charge more than them or the same as them, I mean, you got to start somewhere in business, but not with the units these guys put out. Me personally, I have a Brand X and I have an Autotech Engineering. Out of the two, I would almost probably lean toward the Autotech's a better unit, better made unit for sure. And nothing against Brand X. I ordered the alternator on my Jeep, the first one from him. The one for my wife's Blazer, and I actually, like for the wife's Blazer, I actually had to talk to somebody from Brand X to order the alternator, because all these alternator sites, if you just go on there, pick your vehicle and order an alternator, you're getting a stock chart, one with set up internally regulated. And I run C-Max. I don't want internally regulated. So you can't just go on there and order one. You actually have to talk to them, tell them you want it externally regulated so they can put the right parts in it and leave certain parts out to make it externally regulated. So that's the problem with Brand X. You can message their Facebook page for Brand X and you might have somebody reply pretty quick, or you might wait 3 days. When I put the second alternator on the Jeep, because I've already got one on here from Brand X, I ordered the one for the Blazer from Brand X. Let's go ahead and do the other one for Brand X. Jonathan wouldn't get back a hold of me. Left numerous messages. Even I'm like, dude, I'm ready to buy. I can send the money right now. Nothing. So I made a quick Facebook post about, what other alternator company give me a hookup, and lo and behold, within 2 minutes, Autotech Engineering was on there, and dude actually was like, I'm gonna shoot you a message. He did, with his phone number. I called, talked to him, they hooked me up really good, and it's a really good alternator. But Singer alternators, they're really good. JS alternator is really good, man. There's a lot of Ohio Generator, they're really good. Find a company you like with a price point you like. I like doing price point, And right now, Autotech and Brand X are really killing it with the prices. So there's that to consider. Now, other things, we talked about internally, externally. If you're going to run C-Max or something and you can do it, run it externally regulated. Get an external regulator, and that way you can adjust your voltage. A lot of people have newer cars and that ain't really an option. And then you're playing with the car's electrical and you're doing diodes and the sense wire. I have a video on here of how to do diodes. And the only problem I see with diodes, they do work good, but certain cars are really erratic with them. The Ford Edge, good God, Ford, they just shit the bed with their charging system on that car, that smart charge. I mean, sometimes that bad boy, right now with Yinlong in it, sometimes it'll charge at 15.3, now that the weather's cooler outside. And when it warms up, it might only charge at 14.2. And that's what diodes. So there's, you know, certain things to play with. Diodes are definitely a cheap way to get your voltage up, though. But let's talk about choosing the right alternator, because this video is getting pretty long. You would think, well, the bigger the alternator, the better, kind of like amplifiers. No. I've done testing with this on my own vehicle, and, you know, even with the little Blazer, I think we only have a 270 on the Blazer, and I could have gotten way bigger. But when I'm choosing alternators, I actually ask the guys that build the alternators, which is another reason I love speaking to a human being, is what's going to give me more output at idle? Because we sit in our vehicles and play music. We sit there and the car's idling and we play music. Now, you know, some people rev them up. I don't like to. I just like the idle. It does help a little bit if you could rev it up to about 1200 RPM, but, you know, that most time you're just idling. And normally the smaller units put out more at idle, and normally your big units like your 370s and shit like that, you really have to be revved up pretty good. And I found this out because in my Jeep, when I added the second alternator, I did it out of necessity to drive the vehicle, because it was my daily driver at the time. So my AC compressor, the bearing went out of it, and I went to all the junkyards, the part stores. Nobody had a compressor in stock to fit it. And at the time, I was driving that thing back and forth to work, so I got the bright idea. I had already had an alternator relocation kit, because these Cherokees, the alternator is like down low on the passenger side of the engine. And I used to off-road that thing all the time. And this old like swampy, watery mud down here, it's got a lot of sand in it. And I've had that thing in some deep swamp holes. We're talking like water coming up on the hood deep. And normally every time that would happen, it would kill my alternator. Just from the sand and everything getting in the alternator, it was killing them. So I had already bought a relocation bracket to move it where my AC was. But my AC worked, and I just never took that step. So I yanked my AC compressor off, found my bracket that I had ordered, put it up there, and threw the stock alternator up there. And after a day of driving, I'm like, hell, I wonder what it'd do if I hooked that alternator up. I did, and my voltage was way better. I'm talking like 100 times better at idle. And in turn, that's kind of why I went with the Autotech for the second alternator up there. I thought, well, hey, we'll do a little, and it is a little better, you know, but stock alternator, they do pretty good for at idle, because they're a smaller unit. They do a majority of their charging down low RPM. So was it better when I put the Autotech up there? A lot. But I got a lot of gain from having that stock alternator with the Brand X alternator. So when you're getting an alternator and you're ordering one, if you're planning on just sitting there and demoing, talk to the alternator builder and tell them you want the most output at idle that you can get. Because if you're getting a 400 amp alternator or like a 370, you would be benefited more by having a 240 in its place, just because of output at idle. And I've done a lot of research on this, and that is actually why the Blazer has a 240 on it. That's why I didn't go with a 320 or bigger, because after talking to the builder, you know, he's like, you're going to get more out of this 240 at idle, and it's a demo vehicle. So there you go, guys. I hope this helps clear things up for people that are buying alternators. You know, bigger ain't always better, and we talked about that with like subwoofers the other day. Sometimes bigger ain't better. So why, you know, a lot of the team subs are really overrated. But anyway, same with alternators. Do your research. Talk to your alternator builder. Don't just go on a website and like pick your car, pick the biggest alternator they have and run with it. Actually call and talk to a builder there and ask them what they recommend for a car that just sits there and plays music for hours at a time. All right, guys, hope this helps somebody. Have a great day. Peace out. And as always, guys, bass on.